That's right. I think
Yeah.
investors should look at it as a core portfolio holding. The Granny Shots is basically a thematic portfolio that buys the strongest stocks in a specific theme. So when you think of AI and millennials, Tesla, I mean, they're really at the center of that. Well, I think in 10 years, Tesla has the opportunity to become, a transformational company. Because of what they're doing. So if someone does look forward 10 years, Tesla may be a great opportunity here. We know the market's pretty nervous. We can see it.
That's right. I think investors should look at it as a core portfolio holding. The Granny Shots is basically a thematic portfolio that buys the strongest stocks in a specific theme. So when you think of AI and millennials, Tesla, I mean, they're really at the center of that. I think in 10 years, Tesla has the opportunity to become a transformational company because of what they're doing. So if someone does look forward 10 years, Tesla may be a great opportunity here. Well, the market's pretty nervous. We can see it in the credit markets. That's really where Tesla bonds began to weaken. And I think there are some sort of doubts about their execution. But look, they've got a really loyal customer base. They've got a very charismatic CEO. So in some ways, I actually think Tesla is going to come out of this fine. I think investors need to see some execution before they get comfortable, but this is the time that if someone's really bullish, they should be getting involved because, it's had a huge pullback. I mean, I think Tesla has all the ingredients to become a real transformer. Yes, we're bullish. And it's coming at a time when everyone is a little nervous and scared and there's some geopolitical risk. This is the time when, if you're long-term oriented, you want to be adding exposure to equities. As long as tech is a market performer, if tech actually declines, that's going to be hard for the rest of the S&P 500 to compensate. But what we've seen so far, including Tesla recently, is that tech is actually holding its own, and other stocks are starting to show catalysts and signs of life. Tesla has endured some pretty severe rate hikes, so we know companies are managing this cycle well. If the Fed turns neutral or dovish, that's even more positive for stocks. So I think that the environment for equities still is good because they survived a stress test. It's only bad if the Fed has to raise rates. When it comes to Tesla's impressive growth, it's not just about observing from the sidelines. For Tesla bulls and those with a keen eye for uncovering the next stock market gem, Seeking Alpha is your one-stop shop, offering the latest on Tesla, Tesla stock price targets, Tesla innovation, and everything Elon Musk. Clicking on the affiliate links in the description and making a purchase may earn our channel a commission. That's because, in the conferences that I've been speaking at and seeing wealth managers and family offices, a lot don't want to commit capital until after election day. And I don't think it matters who wins. It's just they want to get that event behind them. In fact, in election years, the November, December rallies are pretty tremendous. And in fact, when markets are up more than 10% in the first half, you also get big rallies, November, December, sort of choppy through September. I think there is a lot of upside in the foreseeable future, let's say 3-6 months out. Yes, I'm bullish into year end, but I'm a little less confident about how markets behave into election day. And not that I think we're going to have a huge drawdown. If we do have a big drawdown, I'd be buying that dip, but I also don't think we can make new highs and then see the market blast off after election day. I'd rather sort of say things look a lot better after election day. I think that's been a dynamic. I mean, I've been fooled by seasonality because I figured from September to election day, markets would be very tentative because this is an extremely close race. I mean, this is a coin toss, according to Nate Silver. But something that Stan Druckenmiller said last week might explain a lot, that markets are betting that Republicans could take the Senate, and that actually could ignite animal spirits things. So there may be underlying momentum that the Republicans take parts of Congress, and that's why markets are bullish. Well, Scott, we're cautious, but we advised our clients to be buying the dips. And the reason we're cautious is that I'm probably saying something very obvious, but I think investors want to see who ends up becoming president after election day. So I think we are in a period where markets are just sitting on the sidelines. But at the same time, 2024 has been such a strong year, Scott, that I think the last 2 weeks have proven that maybe macro is taking a little bit of a step back now, and liquidity and all this cash on the sidelines is really the dominant factor. There's a lot of firepower supporting stocks post-election because we've got a Fed that's dovish and the economy looks healthy. I don't think we're in a recession. And so, the 3-month and 6-month outlooks are very strong for stocks. I think China, while there's maybe some hesitation, China's government is really starting to unleash some measures, and that's supportive of that region finally turning. And of course, the third factor is, I think after 2 years, investors who've been very cautious are starting to realize that, the $6 trillion, 0 cents of cash on the sidelines and low levels of margin debt need to be put to work at a time when the Fed is supporting the economy. It has been one of those years where investors have been hesitant all year, and I think we have had some short pullbacks. But I think the best strategy for investors is to really stick with what's working. And, what's working is AI. First, the number of expected cuts has shrunk, but it's really shrunk for the right reasons. The economy's been good. Inflation is progressing, maybe not the speed anyone would like. But the reality is, 3% or even 2.7% inflation is really good for corporate profits. So I think the earnings outlook actually is far better than most expect. Sure. I mean, bull markets are supported by strong fundamentals. And this is a case where not only has the economy survived extremely high interest rates, but the Fed is beginning to cut rates, and an economy that has sort of been languishing has been China. And now we have some stimulus and what looks like some bazooka policies that are supporting that region. And we have a lot of cash on the sidelines. So I think that this is a formula for stocks to do pretty well the next 3 to 12 months. I think it makes sense for the Fed to be dovish just because inflation is still tracking, especially PCE, towards their 2% target. And now we have some concerns about the job market. So I think the Fed has to be supportive. And I think this election, which is becoming less of a coin toss, I think because it's been a coin toss, people have been sitting on their hands. I think these are reasons markets are starting to have conviction even in front of an election event. Well, I think markets like visibility. So if it looks like one candidate is now looking like the surprise winner, then markets can actually trade better before the election. I mean, I'm probably just citing market history, but whether Trump or Harris wins, I think stocks do pretty well next year, sort of a post-election rally. But there are definitely differences in sectors and asset classes performance depending on whether Trump or Harris wins. I think there's probably more growth worries in people's minds these days. So the jobs reports claims seem to have more market reaction. I think that's going to be the case in September as well. I mean, we had the Fed meeting at sort of the middle of the month, but this week is the jobs report. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of focus on that. I think investors should be cautious for the next 8 weeks. That's right. I mean, the market's been up 7 of the 8 months this year. So we know it's an incredibly strong market, but we also have the September cuts and we have the election things that'll get people nervous. I think in the next 8 weeks, people get a chance to buy. So I think it's good to be cautious, but just ready to buy that dip. Even with some geopolitical risks, it tells me I think the market is starting to bet more on a Trump election. I think they'll get a chance to buy long. Yeah. So I think this is one of those where investors need to be cautious, but in the back of their minds, know this is a strong market. It's been testing investors' patience, but I think we should expect turbulence. I would just say the bottom line is it's a strong market. So I don't think we've seen the top for 2024. It's just that the next 8 weeks are tougher. But do you know who else shares in pro Tesla optimism? That would be today's sponsor, Seeking Alpha. Seeking Alpha is the best pro Tesla news source on the internet. Click the affiliate link in the description below to get the latest Tesla offerings, price targets, innovation, and everything Elon Musk. And as you're pointing out, the NASDAQ could even, decline further. Implications, I wouldn't sell it. But for all these folks,